Windows 10 machine.
Windows 10, yes. And we're live. And welcome to the Foco, right on cue.
Good evening.
Hi, Foco. I'm laughing because you may remember me from such disasters as these Perlmonger meetings 18 months ago when I spent the first half hour trying to get this stuff to work. And now at 7 o'clock, boom, it's working. It's how far we've come. All right, so I've got pizza in front of me and a beer to hand. And we're now here to talk about anything we want to. So actually, let me start with Alan, because Alan, you asked about some technology. Tell us about the technology and what's it all about?
Well, I'm not sure if it's a question I was thinking of asking, but the subroutine signatures that were introduced to Perl in, I think, 520 is experimental. And I've been trying to see whether they have, in fact, been adopted as a permanent standard. And looking through the stuff I was able to find, it looks as though in addition to the signatures, there was some identification that was introduced, and then that got swapped around in a different order. So I was wondering, does anybody know what the current status of A, subroutine signatures generally, and B, the whole setup? Is it still experimental, or is it introduced?
I'm not really sure. Have you used subroutine signatures at all?
No, not the native one. I've used the one with the module. There's a method signature module.
Yeah, the signatures that come to mind was the talk that Inge gave in Montreal in 2000, whenever it was, when he was developing line C module, which took a clump of C code and did an MD5 on it, and then it compiled it and added it in your program, and then it checked to see if that C file had changed to learn whether it needed to recompile it. But signature is more a matter of, well, I don't know if it's the same type. Foco, are you familiar with those at all?
Well, I'm wondering if we're talking about parameter lists or the object-oriented subroutine signatures, so you can pick the right subroutine with parameters.
Strictly parameter list.
Parameter list?
Yeah.
Huh.
Instead
So like prototypes then?
yes. If you let's say you've got two variables. Previously, you would stick them into the when you call the subroutine, you would stick them into essentially array underscore, and then in the subroutine itself, you have to pull them out of array underscore into some local variables. But the revised form, you can specify in the definition of the subroutine itself that it's to expect two variables, and then they will be essentially become local variables within the subroutine, and the Perl itself will stick the values into those, thereby saving the need to pull them out of the array underscore.
That's beginning to sound more like syntax to me. A way of modifying the language so you can write less code. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not always a fan of that kind of approach. I don't mind writing my variable list equals at underbar at the top of a routine. It's good to, I think it's a good idea to explicitly state what kind of variables you're expecting to be passed in. You can always do some parameter validation once you're inside the code. Yeah. And as for whether it's current or not, I really have no idea. I only vaguely have an idea of what version we're up to. I think we're up to is it 526 or 528?
28 has just been brought out.
Okay, yeah. I really have no idea what the latest versions are. I think we're moving to 524 at work. So we're not at the cutting edge of the versions of Perl. Well, I'm going to TPC in June, so I guess.
Are you going for that? Nice.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. What the latest coolest thing is?
When does that happen?
It is. I think it's the first or second week. It's the first week. It's sometime in June. I can't remember. I'd have to look. I don't want to flip to my calendar while I'm broadcast in June. And it sounds really interesting. And the last one I went to is the one in Madison, which I think was 5 years ago. Yeah. The thing about going to conventions is you get exposed to all stuff, and part of it, wow, there's good stuff going on, and part of it is, God, I'm so far behind. And you've got all these, long list of modules and check out, and people you have to go and read. People in face to face. So I was in Madison next to Dave Rolski, and we chatted about stuff, and I kept on thinking, wow, this is the guy who's written, this module and this module and this module. And he's a very interesting guy to chat with, not surprisingly. Very, very smart people, and that's always very cool. Yeah. All right. I don't know the topic. I was interested in finding because I'm working on some old code. I had so I've got a module that's 25,000 long. It's got 360 subroutines. So I'm trying to figure it out. And so I'm just going to quickly bring up my post on Perlmonks. Are you seeing this, Fulco?
Nope. All I've got is your pretty face at the moment.
Okay, let me. I can do. Okay, I'm going to train, and then we'll go over here. There we go.
Yep, got it.
I've got a module, and this for simplified move proprietary information. It's a package, and there's a self with a bless and good stuff. But just to simplify, I've got subroutines. Got subroutines that only get called by, like a public-facing routines, like AA and BB. Underbar AA and underbar BB, which are only called by their namesakes. And I want to move those into separate routines. Now, this is not really the best description, but I want to basically break this 25,000 line monster into a couple of smaller modules, just to make them more manageable, so you can find stuff, so the stuff is organized functionally. And I read about use base, and then in the book, of course, it says don't use use base. You should use parent instead. So I tried use parent, and I didn't really manage to get that working either. So fortunately, I got lots of different solutions.
So you're basically trying to put the whole module in its small modules, right?
Yeah,
And you don't want to change the call to the.
correct. So I don't want to change the namespace. So I want everything to still be in the base namespace, but I want all the modules that I want to move these, I've got 60 functions, 360 methods in there, and I want to split them up into 10 or 20 or 40 smaller modules so that then they're a little easier to manage and find and update individually. I want to see if I can find an example. Here was one suggestion. Right, so this is the suggestion where instead of using parent in the, use parent in the module, he's changing it around, and in foo, he's using parent foo bar, and then putting the underbar subroutine in there. And this wasn't really something I understood would work, but it looks like use parent will work after all. Just had it backwards. This is always a problem because I imagine objects with the most basic one at the bottom and the more complicated ones built on top, except upside down, because when calling basic object, and super I think of as above, but in fact, in my orientation, super is actually the one below you. It's the one you're inheriting from.
Well, super is called for your.
Super is, so if you're in foo colon,
Yeah.
and you call super, that just calls.
Correct.
So that means foo is at the top and foo bar is below it, but I've just always imagined foo is at the bottom and foo bar is above it because you're building on foo. But
Well, actually, it depends on the use space. When you say use space something and then you call super, it's basically the use space class object that gets called, or constructor that gets called.
yeah, the way I think of it is that you chop off the last piece of the module name and go up one level. So.
But you could basically split the modules into smaller. Not have to worry about the hierarchy, right? Like you could make it even pretty flat depending on how the kind of module it is.
Yeah, so in fact.
And then just change all the calls from wherever the functions are getting
Right.
called, which should be pretty straightforward.
Exactly. So I mean, I want to do this kind of thing where I don't have to change any code where it's calling self dash underbar AA. I don't have to change that to anything. So here, this will work fine. So what we glossed over here a little bit is the exports. So foo underbar bar is still going to have to export underbar AA, isn't it, or isn't it? I don't know. I'm going to have to try this out. Anyway, I've got this module at home where I tried it a couple of inches. At a safe distance from any work. I don't want to be on breaking it or what. So that's much later. And I think this would be easy. Had a much better ending of, how the calling all works. Really, to me, I have a basic understanding of even how use parent works. So, but I don't know, maybe it's not something that people do very often. Anyway, I just want to show that off. And so that was one solution from one person. And here's another one. they've got foo here, bar, and down below they've got foo bar, but they've also called it foo, which is confusing. And he specifically said it's not foo bar. And it loads the additional methods right before. So, and then there's also the comment about how, oh yeah, and there's a CPAN module to that. So I'm gonna have to look into that. I would prefer not to use any additional modules because I don't want to call the namespace of my employer by saying, oh yeah, here's this thing, but we have to add this module to do this additional thing. Yeah. And somebody talking about, oh, you can use moose rolls for that. So something to consider.
You've got a wretchedly complicated module to start off with, or a block of code to start off with. Dragging in an OO module as on top of it sounds to me like piling Pelion on also. You are being unnecessarily for the sake of complicated.
Well, it's not that complicated, just that there's a, I don't want to say too much about specifically what's going on, but there are a bunch of methods that take care of this type of work, and a bunch more that do this, and a bunch more do this. And pretty soon you're up over 300 plus methods for doing all kinds of different things. So even to split it up into, 6 or 8 or 10 modules would be an improvement. And some of them are just, regular utility ones. So those could go into their own, separate module. Some of them will have to, the new will have to stay in the base module, obviously.
Hey, would you just
I
scroll up?
really can't do anything until I have a whole bunch of tests in place.
Hey, would you just scroll up to your previous response on the screen?
This one?
Yeah, I just wanted to see that.
Did I go far enough up?
Yep.
Okay.
See, that's similar to the one that you had before where it says, but calling foo bar is calling it as foo. This one seems more along the lines of what I would think, except for the fact that it uses roll tiny.
Oh yeah, right. Right, because it's the one above this that says it has foo bar, but not the
Exactly.
Foo bar PM.
Yeah, this one makes more sense to me, even though I haven't tried it.
Yeah. This has the advantage that the methods defined in foo bar are no longer coupled to foo. Okay, well, they don't have to be coupled to foo as long as you can call them from foo. If you define a new class foo2 and you want to have AA and BB defined in foo2 as well, you can just do this.
Yeah, and I would think that you can do that just by saying inside foo, use foo bar.
Yeah. Well, this is very interesting.
Attributes
Are there a lot of what?
to the object?
No, it's not really. No, it's mostly just. It's not really attributes that I'm concerned about. It's more about how there are lots of different ways to do work, and there's basically, instead of creating a new module, they just put everything into one module. So it's like somebody's overstuffed basement in there. There's everything is in this one gigantic module.
Well, I would think that you could probably just go through all this list of modules, try to group them, right? Once you group them, just copy paste, like I would just literally copy paste in different namespaces, like different namespaces, and then you can have your base class, or you don't even in that case, right? You can just pass things around, and that'll make it a lot easier to test as well because you're just passing in exactly what you want to these
Mhm.
modules, functions.
Yeah, and it would also allow me perhaps cut out some of the use statements because, you know, as you can, 25,000 module, there's this many, I don't know, 30 or 40 use statements. And they're probably not, some of them are only necessary for some of the routines. And I mean, a use statement just means, oh, it's going to go and read this other file. But if we can get rid of a bunch of them, to me, that reduces complexity. You're not no longer in code you don't need to anymore. And also, with a smaller module size, it makes it a little easier to write tests. It's just more manageable. I mean, you're you know, going through page after page after page of code. And I have big windows on my Xterm. It's, you know, it's 80 lines of code, but you know, one of the routines is 400 lines long, and it's a lot of code. All right, that's that was the one thing that I thought to mention. Poco, do you have anything fascinating to share with us?
Sorry, I had to unmute the microphone first. Nothing fascinating to share. I was just curious as to whether or not we'll actually ever have Perl 6. Is it the point where people would really want to use it, or is it just forever going to be in beta?
Good question. To me, I don't think it's going to be forever in beta, but I think it's going to be.
Wait, didn't the 1.0 come?
There are people using it in production.
Yeah, the C specification has been around for a couple of years, and now the latest recruiters are written separate to the key specification. And there's work going on the virtual machines. Somebody's working to make the JVM underlying or available as one of the underlying VMs. So I would say that it's very definitely it's certainly in early production use.
Yeah, that's my understanding. People are using it in production.
Well, to me, when you're saying they're still working on this, still working on that, that seems like it's still a work in progress, and don't really consider it stable enough.
Well, I think it's.
Or is that just a misconception?
What's that?
Or is that just a misconception on my part?
Well, I think these things take a while to gather speed and gain. You know, it sounds like there's a working language now. People are using it in production, but there really needs to be a compelling reason to move to Perl 6, and it's kind of hard to move away from Perl 5 with, you know, 20 years of CPAN modules and a 30-year compiler that keeps on getting stuff backported from Perl 6. So you need to have a compelling argument to move to Perl 6.
Yeah, and some of the times you read, well, you know, this function works, but it's still pretty slow. We're going to optimize it later.
And, you know, how important is it to optimize if you're running in the cloud and you've got not necessarily infinite compute resources, but you've got, you know, good enough performance. You know, it could be that it takes 200 milliseconds to deliver a page and still okay. That's.
I suspect that the grammars may prove to be the killer feature that you can use the grammars to define little languages easily.
A bit of it because sure you can do grammar.
Definition depends on the
Yep. The language that all and the out of throw that SQ as a go, but anybody act. And also that you can or in a language is that maybe I don't know.
be that. That's one of the point says not helping at it. What's going
Pearl prompt type stuff. What happens? And you have to go back and edit it, type of stuff, and it's like a written dump, and you get to some piece of familiar with. So you just type in a little section and see that. So, at all I'm doing as you know, every year's experience, sort of my the it is piece by piece, and I get some and then away.
That's exactly what I was trying to emphasize. Is like trying to one step at a time. I'm pretty sure.
Stuff. Yeah, piecewise. Absolutely.
The problem in fun computing is the mind.
Yeah, I mean, Damien able to think. Yeah. Well, there's a good quote. A quote something like, "Be smart." Right? Really great. And make it and be able to All right, we're back. Looks like we might have lost Fulco. Do not adjust your set. Hi, Fulco. I think we lost Wi-Fi temporarily.
Could be, and I just restarted my end as well.
Aha!
And bandwidth is working again.
Yeah, who knows? Or somebody was digging a hole in Burlington or something. No, that wouldn't affect us here. It would only affect you.
Have you tried any of the, tried downloading Rakudo? Okay.
No, I haven't, to be honest. Before it was a hell of an effort, and I only had one machine, and I didn't want to corrupt the working Perl 5 system that I was using in production and development. And now that I'm retired, I'm not doing enough to warrant trying to switch over to Perl 6 or even play with it.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not even sure I would be keeping as much up to date with Perl if I were retired.
Well, I'm not. To be honest, it's been 4 years now. About a week after I retired, I wrote a couple hundred lines of code, and then nothing until this January when I'm trying to solve a problem with my 3D printing stuff and some complex geometry.
Yeah.
And so I don't need Perl 6 for that.
Sorry, you say you're using Perl 6 for that?
No, I'm saying, and I don't need Perl 6 for that.
Yeah, right. You don't need it. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I really don't know what retirement would look like to me, but I imagine I would retire and I would continue to poke away at a bit of Perl and try this and try that. And then I'd probably find a week would go by or then a month, and then I think, oh, I should try a few things. And I discovered I was starting to get kind of rusty with Perl. Anyway, retirement is the future for me, so I don't have to worry about that.
Well, let's put it this way. I've been spending the past week and a half pouring concrete outside.
Wow. Yeah, you don't need Perl for that either.
Nope.
I was going to ask, is it warm enough for concrete? But actually, they can pour concrete. These days, they can pour concrete in just about any weather, and it's fine.
Yeah, and pour concrete underwater.
Romans could do that.
That's amazing. All right. Are there Perl topics we come up with before we have ideas and have to call it?
Well, I just want to point out that the bandwidth seems to be going away again.
Oh.
Yeah, one video frame every 2 seconds now.
Okay. Well, if the bandwidth is going away, then I think we may have run out of topics to talk about for this month's meeting. But I'm glad we can get together anyway. It's always good to have a monthly meeting just to stay in touch. I'm hoping next month we'll hear back from what happened to the Perl and hear about that, and perhaps start to hear about what we're going to see at the Perl conference in June, because I imagine the program have to talk out by then, and we'll be able to look forward to some interesting talks. I don't know if you were part of this discussion, Fulco, but I'm going to Pittsburgh to see the Perl conference.
I overheard a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd I booked an Airbnb for a week, but I'm looking at the schedule. I think I may not stay for the whole week. I may just stay for, I think it's the first 3 days of the week. So I'm gonna go to that and enjoy it, and then back to work.
And have plenty of stuff to report back to us on.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think now I think about it, I think it's the third week. Third week. Let me just see if I can bring on my calendar here. I guess I want the calendar. Let's see. Oh, you're probably still looking at my face here.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't do that. We're just Google here. Are we there yet? Okay, there's June. Yes. Yeah, so there's the Pearl Conference. So, yeah, the third week in June. And the Perlmongers meeting is going to be 7th. Yeah, so I'll be able to come back and report on that. I mean, there'll be, sure there are other people who are going to be attending that the conference as well. I imagined Buff will go, and maybe Case or Sean will go. Yeah, it's late. Wow. Third week of June. Alrighty. Well, if that's everything, I'm going to end the broadcast.
Okay.
Nice chatting with you, Fulco. And see you next month.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.